Okay, good morning. I hope you are well. Thank you for tuning into the live. We're streaming across YouTube and Twitter. Last night we heard the press conference. I gave you a little bit of commentary around that. This morning, Jeremy Hunt has been out and about doing the rounds, basically talking about what the plan is moving forward. There's been a confirmation that there are going to be spending cuts. There are going to be tax hikes, as you would expect, because we need to balance the books with this budget. And I thought I'll provide a little bit of commentary. The key question here is, you know, is this going to work essentially? So in balancing the books, spending cuts, Liz kind of alluded to it last night, yesterday afternoon, in her speech. But the key question here is, and this is what I think that in Jeremy Hunt doing the rounds this morning, he's basically talking to two audiences. Yes, he's talking to the general public, but he's also talking to the markets. The question is, and his wording has been very, very careful, very, very pointed, very, very purposeful. Is it going to be enough to instill confidence? That's the real question. I think it's important for us to hear it from the horse's mouth. So I'm going to play a clip in a moment and you can hear firsthand what he said, and then I'll provide some commentary and my thoughts around this. All eyes are really going to be on the pound on Monday, and the market sentiments on Monday. But this is what Jeremy Hunt had to say. And the first question that was asked on Sky this morning was, "Well, why do you want to work with this government given everything that has happened?" This is how he started off.
Because I want to do the right thing for the British people. It's a big honour to do the job that I've been asked to do by the Prime Minister. But I want to be honest with people. We have some very difficult decisions ahead. The last few weeks have been very tough, but the context, of course, is coming out of a pandemic and a cost of living crisis. And the thing that people want, the markets want, the country needs now is stability. No chancellor can control the markets. But what I can do is show that we can pay for our tax and spending plans. And that is going to need some very difficult decisions on both spending and tax. But that is what I must do now, so that people who are worried about their mortgage costs going up, people who are worried about how they're going to get through winter with the cost of living crisis, people in the NHS who are worried about the pressures they're facing, can be reassured that the fundamental stability that they need from the government, they expect the government to provide, is there.
I think some really, really key points being made there in terms of the tone and the words that he's choosing to use. He hasn't, and through this, he doesn't reference the war in Ukraine and global inflation. He doesn't do any of that. What he's doing here is basically saying, look, we understand that the fundamental problem is confidence, that we need to be able to show that we can balance our books. And he's now talking about the things that he must now do in order to provide that confidence. So again, he is speaking to obviously the general public, but this speech here, just the way he's opened in and answering this first question, is very much targeted and pointed at the markets to try and provide a little bit of confidence.
You say you want to restore stability, but the party and the country actually's reputation for economic competence has been trashed by the mini budget, hasn't it? I mean, Kwasi Kwarteng has paid the price for that by losing his job. But can you rebuild that reputation when the architect of those proposals in the mini budget is still in her job? Liz Truss is still Prime Minister.
Well, she's been Prime Minister for less than 5 weeks. What I would say about the mini budget
look
is
at the chaos that it's caused.
Well, let's talk about the mini budget. The most important element of it was the energy price guarantee. People's energy bills were heading for £6,500. This will keep the average one down at £2,500. That's very important to families up and down the country. That's staying. But there were mistakes. It was a mistake when we're going to be asking for.
And it's nice to finally hear someone say that actually we've made mistakes. There are mistakes that we've made. This is the first time that you've heard anyone really own up to that fact and say there have been mistakes. And I don't know whether or not they obviously must have had a meeting last night and said, look, we just need to front up to this and just be honest with people. Clearly that conversation has been had, but this is the kind of conversation that you would have expected right from the start, right? That open dialogue. at least to a certain extent, he's trying to have a more of a human, down to earth conversation. And this isn't backing and saying, everything is now fixed, but the language and how he's positioning things are very, very
decisions
pointed.
across the board on tax and spending to cut the rate of tax paid by the very wealthiest. It was a mistake to fly blind and to do these forecasts without giving people the confidence of the Office for Budget Responsibility saying that the sums add up. And the Prime Minister's recognised that. That's why I'm here. And what we need now is...
He's there as a consequence, and this is where people become frustrated with politics, right? And again, this is not a politics channel or a political channel. I'm mainly commenting on this because this has and will have a material impact on the market, which is integral to what we talk about here on the channel. I mean, he is there because there is an air of panic in the party around survival and re-electability, being able to win the next general election, which I think is basically gone. Really, from a competence point of view, maybe he should have been in there in the first place, or maybe they should have just selected Rishi, who kind of warned ahead about this kind of stuff. But, water under the bridge.
For me to show Parliament and the markets that we can make our tax and spending plans add up, that's what I'm going to do. And I want to say this, Anna, if I may, we will have some very difficult decisions ahead. Spending will not rise by as much as people would like, and all government departments are going to have to find more efficiencies than they were planning to. And some taxes will not be cut as quickly as people want. Some taxes will go up. So it's going to be...
And this is the crux of it, right? So again, and I said this in yesterday's live, Liz Truss was asked a couple of weeks ago at the Tory party conference, can you almost guarantee that there will be no spending cuts? She said yes without blinking. This is a massive U-turn. And this is a U-turn from the basis of just simple economics. You cannot borrow a load of money, reduce your receipts from a tax point of view, and not balance the books. You have to balance the book. If this was personal finance, you'd be going into bankruptcy. This is quite literally, and this is an analogy that I've heard over the last couple of days, which is perfectly describes the situation. Imagine you went out and you went and bought a LaFerrari right now, right? Really, really expensive. You bring it home, and then you're like, oh, sod this, I'm going to quit my job as well. Completely cut all your income. How are you going to pay for the car? That's the issue that we're basically facing. So whilst they've said, no, there will be no spending cuts, we can basically take that off the table as being an option. This is a massive, massive U-turn. Now, let me just get rid of this for a second, because I mentioned this yesterday, and now that it is confirmed, this is where maybe a lot of people are going to be concerned. Where are these tax cuts going to come from? And he does kind of talk about, well, he doesn't go into the specifics in this interview specifically, but I will link this below once this live is actually finished. You can go watch the entire thing. Where are the cuts going to come from? Now, this is going to come from all government departments. I think they're going to ring-fence health, the NHS, and I think they're going to ring-fence defence. But where's it going to come from? So if it comes from the social care budget, this will be benefits. People are already struggling. People who have been hit really, really hard by the cost of living crisis already are going to see further help drawn from them, potentially. I mean, he says, find efficiencies. The efficiencies have to come by way of spending in a particular area. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see where this basically comes from. Now, he was asked whether this will be at 2010 levels of austerity. And I think the answer that he gave, I don't know whether you'd find comfort in it or whether you would think, okay, it might be a little bit difficult, but it won't get that far. But there's a lot going on in the background here. We still got to consider inflation, which is a big still, consideration still. Interest rates as a result of that going up. If you can't stimulate growth within the economy, one of the integral pieces of the mini budget for that was the corporation tax, right? That is an integral part to getting the economy growing. So if that's gone, there's a complex series of situations that they have to tackle. And the question is, can they get it? Can they get all of them right, or can they get all of them at least right to a certain degree? We spoke about competence yesterday. It's all very well and good being dogged and determined, but if you haven't got the competence to pull something off, then the doggedness and the determination doesn't account for anything. So there are lots of questions at the moment. There are lots of uh, still lingering questions that I'm sure the market makers, when they wake up on Monday morning and even over this weekend, are going to be paying attention to and still asking. If they don't get satisfactory answers, they don't feel as though the government is in a position where they provide the confidence to the markets, we're still going to be in a position where potentially on Monday we continue to see the pound slide. I mean, it's stabilized at about £1.11 this morning, just looking at it on investing.com. But who knows what's going to happen? Let's see what else he has to say here.
It's going to be difficult, but as we take those difficult decisions, my priority, our values as a government, will be to protect families, businesses who are going through a very challenging time. We'll be thinking about the most vulnerable people. This is a compassionate Conservative government. And the other thing is that we still maintain total fundamental confidence in the potential of the British economy. We have enormous amount we can do. We're the fifth or sixth largest economy in the world, but we've remained a strong economy because at difficult moments like this, we've been prepared to take tough decisions. And that's, I'm afraid, what we're going to have to do.
So that right there that's speaking to the markets directly. That's reiterating and reaffirming where we are in terms of our size globally, and the fact that difficult decisions are going to come along, and he is going to be making those decisions, as difficult as they may be. That right there is targeted at the markets. Again, will the markets believe this? Will this reinstill or re-establish some kind of confidence on Monday?
Okay, and I'm going to explore those tough decisions and what it means for spending in a moment. But first of all, I want to get a sense of the direction that you're heading in, because the mini budget has had its heart ripped out of it, hasn't it, after these reversals on corporation tax and the 45p tax rate. Many are saying that Trussonomics is dead. So what is next from you in terms of policy? How much of a departure will there be from Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng's vision?
Well, as I've said, some of the things were mistakes, but the fundamental strategy behind it all, which is that we have to solve the growth paradox. If we want well-funded public services like the NHS to keep taxes low and falling, then we have to increase our growth rate. That is absolutely right. And I also would like to be able to cut corporation tax. I want us to have the most competitive business taxes, because that's the way that we'll help to grow the economy. But the way we did it didn't give people confidence. That's what we have to change. And that's my job in the next couple of weeks with the statement that will be coming out on the 31st of October.
Can the market...
So again, there at least there's an admission to say that, you know, we definitely got something wrong here. 31st of October is going to be very, very important just in terms of the detail. So Liz kind of mentioned yesterday that this is going to be costed by the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility. So when the report comes out on the 31st, they will have to have got to a juncture where the books balance. It would be suicide. It would be foolish. It would be absolutely ridiculous if on the October 31st, they come out and it's still not balanced in some way, shape or form. So that is an absolute must. That's a minimum expectation for October the 31st. But again, is this going to reestablish market confidence? Let's listen to some of the stuff he says.
They're clearly not satisfied at the moment. They think that the sums don't add up. They, no doubt, will want to see more details. And what will they be? Will that mean more reversals on the mini-budget? Will there be more U-turns?
Well, I'm being very straightforward. We're going to have to take some very tough decisions on both spending and tax. As I say, spending will not go up as much as people want, and there'll be more efficiencies to find. And we won't have the speed of tax cuts we're hoping for, and some taxes will have to go up. That's the reality of the very challenging situation we face. But remember, Anna, we've only heard one part of the equation. We're hearing now about some of the difficult decisions, but also there's enormous potential for growth with some of the other policies that we'll be announcing in the next few months. And when you see the package as a whole, what you will see is a vote of confidence in the British economy. This country that has 4 of the world's top 10 universities, that has one of the world's 2 biggest financial centres, Europe's biggest technology sector. We have a huge amount going for us, but we have to do that by taking difficult decisions at moments like this, and that's what I'll be doing.
More efficiencies to find. Are we talking austerity level cuts again?
This is the question.
I don't think we're talking about austerity in the way we had it in 2010 when I was also in the cabinet, but we are talking about very difficult decisions in budgets where there is already a great deal of pressure.
So which budgets, which departments are likely to be targeted?
Great question.
Well, I'm going to ask all departments to find more efficiencies than they were planning to find. Remember, I ran the biggest spending department for many years, so I know just how difficult it is to find those efficiencies, but we're all going to have to play our part across the board. But I do want to reassure people, my priority as we take these decisions, and indeed the government's priority, will be to help families and businesses that are struggling and to demonstrate that as a country, when we go through difficult times, we understand the pressures facing the most vulnerable people.
Are there any departments?
All right, so there we go. That is, I'll end it there because I think there's a lot of other stuff that gets spoken about, and you can go and watch this as well. I will link it in the comments. I'll pin it in the comments. The question is, number one, will the markets feel as though confidence or competence is returning to the government with Jeremy Hunt, admitting and being forthright and being honest about the fact that, yes, there will have to be some spending cuts and there will have to be some tax hikes, which to a certain degree does put in the bin the mini budget that Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz came up with, 3 weeks ago now. So two key elements are already gone. Stamp duty, that's still staying. It's going to help a lot of people. Low investment zones, I think that's still staying. But there needs to be a rethink. And I think he has been very, very honest in this interview here, saying that we've got things wrong. Will this instill confidence in the markets? We'll find that out on Monday. I hope it does, because ultimately, like I've said, there are a string of very complex situations that need to be navigated here, and this is going to be the first step to it. The other question is this: as someone who's watching this, someone who's actually listening to the news, paying attention to the news, he's also trying to reassure the general public. Is this reassuring to the general public? I think rightly people have the right to feel skeptical. He's used words that, we're going to be mindful of the most vulnerable in society, that we want to show that we care. Will people believe this? That is a debate for another time. I guess ultimately through the week, we're going to find out what people generally think about this. But the big question is, are the markets going to buy this? Are the markets going to somehow feel reassured? And will some of the damage that's been done by the mini budget be repaired, or at least feel as though we're on the road to repair because of what he has said today? That's going to be the real question. I'd love to know what you think, because I think it's very, very interesting times right now. Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the comments in the live section here as well. And if you've not subscribed to the channel already, consider doing so. And if you could also smash that like button for me as well, it just means that other people actually get to see this who might be interested in this topic as well. But enjoy your weekend, whatever it is that you're doing. I'll catch you soon.